Hello, good evening. Welcome to the programme.
Coming up tonight, a family's campaign to improve outcomes for stabbing victims following their own tragic loss.
Concern from business owners in Hebden Bridge over 4 years of disruption after a flood prevention scheme is approved.
Scarborough sets its sights on being the UK's first town of culture.
And after another cold day, there's a temperature transformation on the way for the weekend, though in the short term, there's some more snow to talk about. I'll let you know where in the forecast.
First tonight, amid alarm over knife crime, 1,000 emergency bleed control kits are to be installed across parts of the region in the hope of saving the lives of stabbing victims and people with critical injuries.
The kits contain tourniquets and bandages, and medics say they could help passers-by stop a casualty from bleeding to death in the vital moments before 999 crews have arrived at the scene.
They've been installed across Nottinghamshire by the ambulance service and community groups, partly inspired by Adele Cook from Newark. Now, her family and well-wishers have fundraised for their own kits after her husband James died from stab wounds last year. A man is due to stand trial later this year. John Hill reports.
Cookie was loud, funny, a trickster, tormenting. Cookie lived for his kids. They were his whole world.
And could one of these have saved his life?
It could have possibly saved his life. Nobody can be sure, but we would have liked to have had the chance to try.
For Adele Cook, a kit like this is a tangible way of keeping her husband's memory alive. He was stabbed to death in Newark last April. Confronted by an emergency, though, how many of us would know what to do?
An accident or a deliberate attack.
A project combining the East Midlands Ambulance Service, the local FE College and Nottinghamshire Freemasons is now training 3,500 people in life-saving skills and today unveiled the first of the bleed control kits in a defibrillator cabinet at the community hospital in Kirby and Ashfield.
By August we'll have just over 1,000, actually 1,004 bleed control kits in Nottinghamshire, which will help save people's lives without a shadow of a doubt, and that's because of Adele.
Well, we've opened up one of the bleed control kits and we're with Sarah, who trains people how to use them. But Sarah, say for the sake of argument there wasn't one to hand, there are still things you can do, aren't there? We've got our fake wounded arm here. Now this hole could be, what, a big bleed? What on earth do you do then?
So if it's pulsating or squirting, we're going to find the source of bleed, just pop our finger in it, using any kind of fabric, cloth, tea towels, anything to hand, pack the wound, and then we're going to apply direct pressure for 10 minutes.
And what about a tourniquet?
Yep, so if you still can't control the bleed, we'll apply a tourniquet, so you'll wrap a bandage or something around the limb, then you'll get your twisting device, twist it under, and then you just keep twisting until the life-threatening bleed stops.
And that could save a life?
Yes, it will.
The number of stab wounds being treated by surgeons in Nottinghamshire's major trauma centre has actually fallen by a quarter over the last 3 years. But concerns, of course, remain.
Knife crime obviously does exist. What's really important is that as a community we become more resilient to tackling bleed, whether it's knife crime or a car accident.
And Adele is clear what she would like to see.
Bleed kits everywhere, in every pub, in every restaurant, in every school. We want education in school, you know, like they had the day for drugs. We want knife crime training given to teachers and restaurateurs. We just need to make the world a better place.
No one would want to have to use these kits, but in an emergency, a little knowledge and swift action could just save a life. John Hill, ITV News, Kirby and Ashfield.
Yes, really good to see those bleed kits being rolled out across parts of our region. Well, next tonight, it's a town that suffered enormous damage from flooding in recent years, but a multi-million-pound scheme to protect Hebden Bridge in the future is dividing the local community.
It is. Calderdale Council has approved plans from the Environment Agency for a major flood alleviation scheme, including new walls and barriers. It's estimated it'll take 4 to 5 years to complete. Local businesses, though, fear in that time the cost to them will be greater than the threat posed by further flooding. Lisa Adlam has this report.
Its steep valley sides and waterways are among the features which make Hebden Bridge the popular destination it is to visit and to live. They're also the reason the town is so vulnerable to flooding, the most catastrophic of which was in 2015 when streets were deluged and homes and businesses devastated. And the reason behind the Environment Agency's £81 million alleviation scheme, which was approved last night by Calderdale Council.
We're going to improve the flood defences, for example, around here, further on in the town. And the basic concept of it is to, stop the flooding that occurred in 2015. And these days, you just never know when those are going to occur again. So it's to prevent those things from happening in the future.
But a large number of people object to the plan, deeply concerned it will not only destroy the character of the town, but also the livelihoods on which it's built. Business owners say the impact of 4 or 5 years of major work to construct new walls and barriers and raise existing walls will damage trade. And fear compensation schemes proposed as part of the Environment Agency's plans will simply not be enough.
I think we'll be all right. We're right in the centre on Bridgegate. We're likely to get compensation because it's going to be very difficult for them to argue that they haven't caused us problems. But the smaller businesses further out of town won't be able to do that. And once they start to fail, the effect is on all of us. We're all in it together.
We're not against the flood alleviation scheme. We're against where we're stood right now. There's going to be hard walls. There's going to be raising barriers right across this area. And it's going to ruin the aesthetics and take away a lot of the heritage of the area. We want a more holistic approach.
With land at Calder Homes Park earmarked as a potential base for construction units, many believe key parts of the town could be lost for good. The Environment Agency has said it'll do all it can to minimise the impact and keep the community informed each step of the way.
We say to those people who oppose, look, we recognise and we accept your concerns. We're concerned and so as well. But let's work together, to make this work for everybody.
Funding has yet to be secured for the alleviation scheme, but if successful, work could begin next year. Those who oppose it say they will continue to press for protection for their town, which goes far beyond the barriers themselves. Lisa Adlam, ITV News, Hebden Bridge.
Yes, and we'll let you know when they do get the funding for that scheme. British Steel is back to working 24/7 for the first time in more than a decade. That's thanks to a new contract supplying steel to Turkey. It'll be used to make a high-speed railway line.
Well, it comes less than a year after the government stepped in to rescue the struggling firm. The 8-figure agreement will mean they can employ more staff in Scunthorpe.
Adam Fowler has been hearing from bosses today. And Adam, it's a significant deal for them, isn't it?
Yes, there's been lots of news about British Steel over the last few years. Rarely, though, could you say it was actually good news. It was 2019, of course, that it faced collapse when it was taken over by the government's insolvency service. That's when it ended up getting sold to its Chinese owners, Xingye. Last April, another crisis when the blast furnaces here came within hours of being switched off and thousands of workers losing their jobs. That led to emergency legislation being passed that allowed the government to take control. And of course, it was only in October that I was stood here talking about how the EU planning on doubling tariffs for steel products made in non-EU countries. That's still in the offing and was described as an existential threat at the time. Now, though, finally, some good news, and it comes in the form of high-speed rail. No, not that one. This is high-speed rail in Turkey, and a new contract to build 372 miles of track. We spoke to British Steel earlier on. Here's what they had to say.
So it gives everybody a real boost of confidence. It demonstrates the confidence of our quality steels and the technical specifications that we can supply into. And it just gives everybody, I think, a little bit of a lift given where we've been. It's been quite a challenging time for British Steel recently.
So work has begun around the clock on that. The contract's worth tens of millions of pounds. British Steel, of course, the UK's second biggest steel producer. We spoke earlier on to Tom Smith from the Community Union, who welcomes the news but says they're not completely out of the woods just yet.
It's absolutely massive for the lads, especially those down at SRSM that have been hit the hardest with shift shortages over the years. So it's a real boost to the workforce and confidence all around here and for the town as well. One contract doesn't sort all, but it does put us back on the global stage again, and then other people will realise the value, just as the government does, just as we do here in Scunthorpe.
Well, this all comes on top of the £500 million deal that was announced in June for British Steel to provide Network Rail with its tracks for the next 5 years. So the blast furnaces here that came so close to being switched off for good are going to be busy, at least for a little while yet.
They certainly are. Adam Fowler live in Scunthorpe tonight. Thank you very much.
In other news, the mother of a 12-year-old girl who took her own life in a mental health unit in Sheffield after a rare brain disorder was missed has welcomed the announcement from the Royal College of Psychiatry that they'll be issuing new clinical guidance on the condition. Mia Lucas died in 2024 while she was sectioned at the Beacon Centre. An inquest heard she had a swelling of the brain which caused her acute psychosis, and it was treatable, but she wasn't properly tested for it. The new guidance aims to improve diagnosis, therefore reducing the risk of future deaths.
A man has been taken to hospital with serious injuries following a light aircraft crash near Ripon. Emergency services were called around 12:30 today to the incident in Massam. The pilot is thought to have been the only person on board. The Air Accident and Investigation Branch has sent a team to investigate the cause.
After calendar, the ITV Evening News continues at 6:30. Let's find out what's on the programme this evening. Here's Geraint Vincent.
Surrey's police force calls for witnesses to come forward after human trafficking claims emerge from the Epstein files. It comes as new emails show Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's team tried to get Epstein's help to counter the sexual assault allegations against him 4 years after he said he'd cut contact. The rate of inflation drops to 3%. Could an interest rate cut be next? And unseen doodles discovered in a letter provide a touching insight into the late Queen's childhood. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Geraint, thank you very much. Now, a star of the hit TV show The Traitors has opened up to ITV News about his struggles with an eating disorder.
A quarter of people with eating disorders are thought to be men, but Miles Asteri believes he'd have been able to access more support if he'd been a woman.
In the final part of our series, Hannah Ludlow has been speaking to Miles and other men about the importance of getting the right support, a warning that this report contains details and photos that some viewers may find distressing.
I will say that I was a traitor.
He made his name on Series 2 of The Traitors, but long before the cameras rolled, Miles Asteri was staying faithful to diets that would define his early 20s.
I've always been a bit bigger than the normal average guy. And then within the community, the LGBT community especially, you normally find that a lot of guys there are quite ripped, quite slender, quite slim. There's these kind of tribes that you need to fit into. So you're either a bear, you're a twink, this, that and the other. I used to jump on scales all the time. So I'd go for a wee, jump on the scales, have a bowel movement, jump on scales. I would constantly be obsessed with what the numbers were, and then that would also push me.
Miles was never formally diagnosed with an eating disorder.
I think if I was a young female, I think people were a bit like, oh, there's something going on here. We need to do this, we need to get them help. I think being a guy, nobody knew how to kind of speak to me. No one knew how to kind of empathise or talk about there's certain situations that might be going on that I might not even be aware of.
1 in 4 people with an eating disorder in the UK are men, according to NHS data. It's thought the real figure could be higher though, as many men don't seek help. Ali Outram is a psychotherapist based in Ripon in West Yorkshire.
There's often misrecognition by themselves, by GPs, by their families, and cultural expectations in terms of men are meant to be strong, or it's a female illness. And also they don't see themselves reflected in eating disorder narratives.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the My Minds podcast. I'm your host George.
PhD student George Mycock runs a podcast on men's mental health. He draws on his own experience of eating disorders caused by under-eating and over-exercising.
These fitness people would talk about how you had to be man enough, like, your real men can do this. So I felt like it was questioning my manhood, my masculinity.
George has created guidance on how to support men with eating disorders. It's now being used by charities and the NHS.
I think we definitely need more support groups from men. I think a lot of men seem to be hesitant of labels and of being told that they have something or that there's something potentially wrong with them, and instead encouraging them to recognise the concerns and the way they're impacting their lives themselves, and then they might be more open to then getting suggestions or getting advice or getting support.
Support that's vital when it comes to tackling an eating disorder. Hannah Ludlow, ITV News.
Yes, it's very good to talk about these kind of things, isn't it? OK, well, let's have a bit of sport now. Chris joins us in the studio. Turning into a really good season for Bradford City then.
Yeah, not half, Lara. Yeah, you'd never guess they were only promoted to League One back in May last year. Well, Bradford well on course to make the playoffs and with an outside chance of automatic promotion back to the Championship for the first time in 22 years. Last night, 1-0 win over Stockport, courtesy of this Anthony Sarcevic strike in the second half, moved the Bantams up to 4th in the League One table. Elsewhere last night, Barnsley came from behind to beat Peterborough 2-1 at Oakwell. Captain Luca Connell there curled in the equaliser before Rhys Cleary struck the winner and then celebrated with a little jig in front of the fans. There was a big 3 points for Doncaster in their survival battle. Luke Molyneux's penalty, enough for a 1-0 win over Huddersfield. Mansfield sadly couldn't repeat their cup heroics, losing 1-0 at Blackpool, and Rotherham remain in deep relegation trouble after losing at fellow strugglers Burton. After the game, manager Matt Hamshaw admitted he was worried about his future.
It worries me every day, every week. I understand it. Look, if that's on me and the chairman deems that on me, that's up to the chairman. There's not a lot I can do. All I can keep doing is coming in, working as hard as I can, getting the best out of the group. I think there weren't a lack of effort tonight or a lack of desire to run around for the badge. There was just a bit of a lack of quality. But we have to be much better. But I also understand the frustration where we are, and if that's aimed at me, then it's aimed at me.
Meanwhile, in League Two, there was an important win for playoff hopefuls Chesterfield, courtesy of this Sam Curtis goal against Gillingham. And an even more important victory for Harrogate, 1-0 at Barrow, to move them to within 2 points of safety at the foot of the table. Now, there was a bizarre incident in the National League game between Scunthorpe and Rochdale last night. Take a look at this. Rochdale player Emmanuel Disarue running up to take a penalty and then not even kicking the ball. The referee then awarded Scunthorpe a free kick. The FA rules say players cannot stop completely after the run-up to a penalty has been completed, and it ended up costing Rochdale as well 2 points as the game ended 1 apiece. And finally to the Winter Olympics in Italy, where Batley bobsledder Leon Greenwood made an earlier than expected debut last night. Leon edition.
I was back at the Olympic Village and an hour before the event I got a phone call saying, Leon, you're going to be in the two-man event. Do you want to do it? Are you feeling good? You feeling healthy? And yeah, I didn't turn it down. I've done it. I've done it.
Well, Leon told me that they only went at 85% in that because they wanted to conserve their energy for the 4-man bob. Now, that's an event that Leon's been preparing for and one that could realistically win a medal at the weekend. So fingers crossed they can do it.
Watching him in that one, it just makes me feel sick.
I know, it's terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Hats off to him.
Please don't be.
No.
Thank goodness you don't have to do it, Lara.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Now then, if you thought Scarborough was all about the ice creams and the fantastic fish and chips, you'd be wrong, because there's culture too.
Yes, and after Bradford's successful stint as the UK's City of Culture, Scarborough is putting itself forward to be the country's first town of culture.
And if the government-appointed judging panel agrees, then it could mean a £3 million boost for the economy. Here's our very own Scarborough man, Fraser Maud.
Famous for being the first ever seaside holiday resort, Scarborough has a rich history dating back to Viking times and plenty of culture. Indeed, the first thing you see when you step off the train is the Stephen Joseph Theatre.
So the Stephen Joseph Theatre couldn't be seen as the sort of centre of culture in the town of culture?
Yeah, I like to think so.
It's playwright Sir Alan Ayckbourn's artistic home and a great place to talk about the resort's bid to be a town of culture in 2028.
I think Scarborough has a unique story to tell. You know, the first British seaside resort, we're celebrating our 400th anniversary this year. You have a fishing heritage, you have Scarborough Fair reinvented for the modern day, we have festivals. It's a unique thing, and I would say as well, for Scarborough, the Stephen Joseph Theatre is the home of theatre in the round in this country. This is where it started.
Winning the race to become the UK's first town of culture could be worth £3 million worth of arts funding, and the local MP is backing the bid.
This is a chance to showcase to the rest of the country what we do. It'll bring £3 million in and then untold revenue if we win. So it's a chance for people in Scarborough to enjoy what's on their doorstep, to be proud about it and celebrate the wonderful culture.
So tell me a bit about the principle of the old parcels office.
Yeah, so built
just over the road is one of over 24 art galleries, the Old Parcels Office. Its curator, Sally Gorham, is helping prepare Scarborough's bid.
What they're going to be looking for is how have towns taken their heritage and brought it to life in a new contemporary way that's really embracing the wider population. You know, we're more than just a visitor centre. There's lots of people who actually live here, and that's going to be at the heart of our bid.
As for the Scarboroughians, well, they certainly have differing levels of enthusiasm.
Scarborough's full of culture. It's got an extraordinary history, and it just seems to be everywhere you look, there's an artist or a musician. It's bursting with cultural life.
Well, I think we've got as good a chance as anybody else at that. It's a place that's beautiful and people like to come to.
I think they can do it.
But it needs a bit of work.
Well, it needs a bit of work. Maybe it's not by 28, maybe 30, but I think they can get there.
It's hoped success could help bring more culture-conscious tourists to the resort. Handy on wintry days, when the town is a little more Scarbarea than Scarbados. Fraser Maud, ITV News, Scarborough.
Yeah, there's not many people dipping their toes in the sea, is there?
It's very chilly there, doesn't it? Well, let's see what the weather's like for Scarborough and the rest of the region. Here's Nick Miller.
Today's forecast: seafood and sugar cube towns. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello, it's been a cloudier day today, more wet weather moving in tonight, and it's been cold again, especially in the wind. That at least is about to change. Today, a high close to 5, felt like freezing in the wind. By the weekend, the temperature bounce back into double figures. It's going to feel very different, all down to a change of air mass. So we're in the blue, the Arctic air at the moment. Fast forward to the weekend, though, and the warmer colours coming in on a southwesterly from a long way south of the UK. So that's a milder direction, though these colours not to be confused with sunshine. Still a fair amount of cloud around and still wet at times. Just that very different feel out and about. But we are not there yet, and into tonight and into a cold night. Wet weather spreading north and the risk of further snow, South Pennines and Peak District, that could bring some disruption to travel. So here it is. It's a lot further north than it looked at this time yesterday. There's a Met Office yellow warning for that snow potential here affecting the routes. If you're heading westwards from Sheffield across to Manchester, for example, and into the morning, and temperatures falling low enough for maybe 1 or 2 icy patches out there as well. But it is a cloudy, damp, even wet start to the day tomorrow, with a sunrise at 7:18 and a sunset getting closer to 5:30. So a wet morning tomorrow, further rain and hill snow around, and a cold feel and a brisk wind, particularly towards the coast. Though overall the wind turns out in the afternoon to be easing, so a bit lighter than today, but we keep the clouds, some outbreaks of rain, and highs of around 5 or 6 degrees Celsius. More rain moving through on Friday, the chance of showers at the weekend, but that's the change in temperature. A reminder that spring is, well, about to spring.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
A little bit of sunshine as well later on, isn't there?
But snow in the South Pennines.
Yeah, OK, we'll just have to brush over that one. Yeah, it'll be fine. OK, thank you for watching.
We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Bye-bye.